going on, Vikings fans? Welcome into Vikings Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, I want to do a deep dive on all the latest NFL rule changes heading into next season and how does it impact the Minnesota Vikings, and just overall give you guys my thoughts on all of these changes that will be coming to the NFL next season. But before we dive into it, my bosses actually challenged me before we hopped in the studio to film today's show, and they just said, hey, challenge Vikings fans to get 500 likes. I told them that this would be an easy goal for you guys. So if you guys could help me avoid an awkward meeting with my bosses, quick, easy way to help us out here, go down, hit that thumbs up icon. All right, so let's start off with the first piece of news that came out today, and this was coming in from Albert Breer. As he said, NFL owners tabled the Lions' proposal on seeding the playoffs purely on record. Lots of discussion, no votes. And immediately when I saw this, actually a couple months ago, that the Lions proposed this idea where it doesn't come down to, who wins the division. It would just all be based off record. I thought it was objectively hilarious that the Lions were the ones that proposed this. Because if any team were to propose that type of change, wouldn't it be us? Wouldn't it be the Minnesota Vikings, as we would have been the 2 seed in the NFC last year? Now, we would have been tied with the Philadelphia Eagles, but due to tiebreakers, the Vikes would have had the 2 seed, Eagles would have been the 3, and still the Lions would have been the number 1 seed. Now, even as a Vikings fan, I am so happy they did not make this change. I still think divisional winners deserve to have that home playoff game, because if you would have changed this rule, it would just take away some juice from these divisional matchups. I mean, specifically, like just last year, Week 18, even Week 17 against the Green Bay Packers at home, like those games feel so important, and they truly felt like playoff games. Then obviously we know Week 18, that was the definition of a playoff game, where it was like, yeah, you're either getting the number 1 seed, you're winning the NFC North, or you're going to have to travel to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. So even though it, would technically have benefited the Vikings if this rule would have been changed, at least for last season. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen here in the future, but I'm happy they're keeping it. Division winners, they get home playoff games, and hopefully the Vikes are hosting a playoff game next season. But we got to talk about it. The Tush push. Apparently, it is going to remain in the NFL for at least next season. And, I don't really have too many strong opinions on the Tush push. I understand it's not the most aesthetically pleasing play to watch, but also this, I think it would be a terrible look for the NFL if you had Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, their go-to play, their bread and butter is the Tush push, and then they go win the Super Bowl, and then you're going to take that play away. I just think it would be kind of soft. So honestly, I am happy that the NFL is keeping the Tush push. I just think it would have been a soft look for the league if the Eagles went and won the Super Bowl, and then they would have got rid of their go-to play. And my best argument to the NFL, if they were thinking about getting rid of this rule, I would just say have the team stop it. Like, there has to be an answer out there where the Eagles are not picking this up on nearly 90% of 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 conversions. Like, I want to see the Vikings, Brian Flores, hop in the bag this offseason, come up with a plan to stop the Tush push. Instead of just, complaining and hoping that it gets taken away. And also, I thought it was funny. The Green Bay Packers were the team that proposed this bill. So, stick it to the Packers. I'm happy the Tush push is staying. But also some major news in terms of the kickoff rule here. So, the NFL's kickoff proposal was separated into 2 votes today. One that passed and one that was tabled. The one that passed was that the football now moves to the 35-yard line after the touchback, and also they had no vote at this time on the onside kick modification. It will pick back up at the May meeting. But when I heard this, the Vikings need to add an electric kick returner this offseason. Very disappointing that they cut Kene Wangu before the final roster cuts last season. One, that was a shocker to me. None of us expected that. But also, he is such a playmaker in that part of the game. I mean, I think he had 3 touchdowns in 2 seasons in the kick return spot for the Minnesota Vikings. And, I don't want to roll out next season with Ty Chandler, Brandon Powell being our kick returners. Like, go find a guy, whether that's in the draft or even just a UDFA class or even just a random free agent who you think could be a elite kick returner. But, I'm going to probably assume Dennis Allen, actually today, new special teams coordinator for the Denver Broncos, said he expects 70 to 75% of all kicks to be returned this upcoming season. So the Vikings going to need to add a playmaker back there. And also, I'm curious if like a team like the Dolphins, like are they going to start putting Tyreek Hill back there? Like if you really have an explosive weapon with the football in his hands, could you potentially even see, like, what if the Vikings just say, screw it, we'll put Jordan Mason back there or something, or Jalen Naylor, maybe he gets a chance, Jordan Addison. I just do think the Vikings need to add another playmaker just to help them out in special teams. Don't think Ty Chandler or Brandon Power, they're okay in that spot, but I would rather have the Vikings be elite in that spot heading in the next season. And also this coming from Ari, saying official, the NFL announced that Sony's Hawkeye technology will be used next season to electronically measure first downs. This was obviously coming from that Bills-Chiefs game where some people felt like the Bills got a bad spot. I like this, but also a little disappointing for the chain crew. There was nothing more electric when the chain guys came out there on a 4th-and-1 situation. Everybody was waiting around to see if the football was past the sticks. But they're going to do it all through the Sony Hawkeye view here and, just lead to more accurate measurements. So got really no too strong of opinions on that one. But also a rule that should have impacted the Vikings last season. NFL owners also now have approved proposals to expand the league's replay assist system. This would have came in handy during the regular season game against the Los Angeles Rams. Now, they actually did say technically if there's no flag on the play, this won't come into play, which I think is incredibly stupid. Like, if it was as blatant as, like, the Sam Darnold face mask where he's getting his neck twisted around, you should be able to call down from the booth and be like, hey, you guys completely missed this. That's a 15-yard penalty. But it will be nice for, phantom PI calls or phantom roughing the passers calls. If there is a flag thrown down there, they can just quickly call down from the booth, be like, hey, that was a terrible call. So I like that rule. And then also overtime rules changing here. NFL owners now have passed a rule that both teams will be allowed to possess the ball in overtime in the regular season. The original proposal was for a 15-minute overtime. That now has been amended to 10 minutes. I like this. Again, no strong feelings on this one. I think it is nice, though, that both quarterbacks, especially when you have a great regular season matchup where it's like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. Let's just say it's a shootout and it goes to overtime. I do like the idea that both quarterbacks will have a chance to go win that football game. I'm curious, though. I could see a lot of teams in that overtime period starting to defer and starting to be like, yeah, we'll start out on defense. You guys start out on offense, kind of put the pressure on them where they have to decide, do we go for 2 here? Do we just take the extra point? But then if they come down and score a touchdown, they might just go for 2, trying to go for the win here. So I like this rule. I would have wished they kept it at 15 minutes. I could just see us possibly having more ties than we've ever had with that just being 10 minutes, but, still unlikely that ends up happening. But I'll ask you guys this. Be honest with me. How do you feel about these new rules? I like them. It's not like I am pounding the table saying I love them, but don't really hate any of them either. So I'm kind of neutral on these, but you guys let me know. Be honest with me. How do you feel about these new rules? All right, I do want to talk about some comp picks with you guys to close out today's show, and then also talk about the left guard position. Kevin O'Connell had some thoughts on that. But Emily tweeted this out, talking about the comp picks, saying, I'm sure Darnold and Daniel Jones are the 2 over-the-cap has. Cam Robinson is the 3rd comp pick her and Ben Gessling were talking about on a recent podcast. Believe the possibility of getting 3 comp picks came up again with O'Connell this morning, so it seems they have some confidence in that. That is great news because we can take a look here at the over-the-cap comp pick formula right now. The Vikings are in line to get a 3rd-round pick for next season, projected to be the 50th overall selection, which is awesome there, but also one from Daniel Jones in the 4th round, pick number 193. And then if you just slot in the Cam Robinson, supposed to be in the 5th, pick 215, I mean, you're getting 3 pretty solid picks, especially the Sam Darnold pick. That would be awesome to get that at pick number 50 here. But I think this is the nail in the coffin to the Vikings won't be signing any more players until after the NFL draft. Pretty confident when I say that. Kwesi talked about it this week. Even Kevin O'Connell was talking about it, just how important that comp pick formula is to them. I agree with it. Why, especially with there's no like big name free agents besides like an Asante Samuel, but he'll probably just get a 1-year deal. Like, kind of why risk losing that 3rd or 4th or 5th round comp pick to just sign a guy that's going to get you better on the margins? And also for all the people freaking out, why didn't the Vikings sign and trade Sam Darnold? You necessarily did. Like, you got a 3rd round pick for him. You pretty much got a 4th round pick for Daniel Jones. And also Cam Robinson. Everybody was freaking out. Why'd you give him a 4th round pick last year for a guy who's going to only start 10 games for you. Well, you just got a 5th-round pick for next season. So I understand, like, we all kind of overreact to these things, but, what you may not know now, later you'll understand. And I think, sometimes as NFL fans, we need to do a better job of understanding that. But we'll talk about the left guard spot here in a second. But first, I do want to tell you guys about these J.J. McCarthy jerseys that you guys can get right now at chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. If you guys hit that link, we got a sweet deal going on for you guys right now. I'll have this link in the comments section and description of today's show. But if you guys want to go pick up a J.J. McCarthy jersey today, click that link, chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. All right, so we got a new report coming in from the head coach himself, Kevin O'Connell, as he said that if they went out and played right now, they would likely run a rotation of Blake Brandel and Michael Jurgens at left guard. First off here, I don't believe Kevin O'Connell for a single second that he truly believes if week 1 was this Sunday, they would go a rotation of Blake Brandel and Michael Jurgens. I think he's just saying this to get some competition heading into camp. But I know a lot of people are down on Blake Brandel heading into the season just because of the way he finished this past season. But I do want people to remember he was about middle of the pack before Darrisaw got hurt. Now, after the Darrisaw injury, he was pretty bad. I mean, he allowed 31 pressures in 10 games. That is not good stuff. But before the Darrisaw injury, I mean, the overall PFF grade, 63.1. 63.8 in the pass block, 65.6 in the run block, 2 sacks allowed, 10 pressures. Like, that's solid production. And I do think with also adding Ryan Kelly to that offensive line, having Darrisaw, Ryan Kelly right next to you, like, you will get answers on it. Blake Brandel is a solid starter. So still, if I had to call it right now, I think Brandel is going to get the week 1 nod at left guard. But what about 7th-round pick last season, Michael Jurgens? Now, here are his college PFF grades from his last year. He actually played 6 years of college football, but his last year was the only one where he played left guard. And here were his grades at the left guard spot: 82.5 overall, 86.5 in the run block, 81.2 in the pass block, which is really solid for a 7th-round pick. So I think these two are going to battle it out. It actually should be, trying to think, the most important battle heading into training camp. Maybe you have one at wide receiver 3 between Rondell Moore, Jalen Naylor. No competition at running back, none at tight end. Just going down the list here. Probably left guard's only battle. Maybe the safety position too if Theo Jackson's going to try to get more reps. But yeah, left guard's probably going to be the biggest battle heading into the season for this Vikings roster. But I'll ask you guys this. Who should start at left guard? If you guys had to call it right now, give me a BB for Blake Brandel or give me an MJ for Michael Jurgens. You guys let me know your thoughts down below. If you guys also want to hit me up on Twitter, that's the handle right there, at Pat Sieps. Give me a follow over there, and I'll give you guys a follow right on back. But we'll see you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes.